everybody, I am Tom and you are watching an update video for Baldur's Gate 3. So patch 4 has just been released. It didn't actually take them anywhere near as long as I expected before they released this. I just noticed that there was a 30 gig update when I turned on my Steam last night, so it's a big update and it's just dropped. As I said, it's like 38 gig. They have said this is going to be the last like really big update. Having said that, let's go over what they've got. So first things first, as with all the big patches, there's a host of usability, balancing, stability, and just general glitch fixes. They're all going live with this patch. I won't go over all of them here, but reading through them, they all seem like really good changes. The fixes obviously are fine, everyone loves fixes, but the changes they're making, all of them seem like pretty good ideas in my opinion. As for some of the specific improvements they're making, dice rolls are now weighted to avoid streaks of successes or streaks of failures. So they're weighting the dice a bit to make it less annoying when you get 7 ones in a row. Or rather, making it less annoying so you don't get 7 ones in a row. This is an interesting change. I think it makes sense in a video game context, because on a tabletop, I don't know, there's something about like, if one of your friends gets 7 ones in a row, everyone else finds it funny. But in a video game contest, when you're playing by yourself, it's less fun. I don't know why the distinction is there, but the distinction is definitely there. You probably have to get some psychology into figuring out why. Also, the updated Speak with Dead cinematic dialogues with VFX and animations. So they actually showed this off on the panel of hell. They actually speak the spell, and it has this little animation where it actually like raises them up, and you have a full spoken dialogue with them. It's quite cool. They've added more polish to the overall cinematics, so a lot of the cinematics, the animations and things have got a bit better. I think they're also upping the textures a bit and some of the stuff as well. Added a dedicated button that allows party members to escape a combat encounter. To use it, character needs to be 27 meters away from the nearest enemy. So this is actually quite good, because currently the way that the game works is if you want to run away from an encounter, you can technically do it, but you have to run so far away that you actually you deload that character from the same instance that the other people are in, technically, I think is what's happening. So now you just need to be able to get 27 meters away and your character can actually flee from combat. Which is a good idea because it's always been a part of D&D in general to be able to flee and run away from a combat encounter if it's too tough for you, or if you just don't want to fight it. There's several new custom animations for animals during cinematic scenes. So currently previously, the animals were a bit static in cutscenes. I did notice this going through. Like the owlbear was kind of just standing there staring at you. They kind of made it menacing with the sounds it was making, but like it wasn't particularly menacing. And the same with the dog, Scratch, I think his name was. He wasn't the most animated of dogs. He kind of just stood there wagging his tail, staring at you blankly. So they've updated some of that during the cutscenes, which is nice. NPCs now react more aggressively when being attacked by summoned creatures. That's interesting. It's not something I noticed before, but I guess maybe they weren't particularly aggressive if you attack them with summoned creatures, so you could like summon an imp, kill an NPC, and no one would care? I guess that's what that means. They added Razor Chroma support. That's nice. If you've got a Razor product. Improved lighting in several key locations in specific cutscenes. That's just nice. Split large pack files into smaller chunks. This allows future patches to be smaller in download and install size. This means that this patch will be a much larger initial download. As I said, it's like nearly 40 gigabytes, I believe. So it's a relatively big download. They've reskinned several interface screens, notably the character tooltip, the main menu, and the profile menu, surface and cloud tooltips, and death saving throws, container UIs, and notifications. So lots of different things they've reskinned there. There was a few of them where it looked like they were just using placeholders anyway. Like I know for container UIs, like initially I think they were ripped directly from Divinity Original Sin 2, because they were just using placeholder assets that they already had from their previous game. They've also improved performance in the options UI and restructured it. Improved pathfinding around other characters. They actually did improve pathfinding in patch 3, but they've obviously improved it even further, which is fantastic. Pathfinding is always difficult in games like this, so the fact that they're still actively working on it, and honestly Baldur's Gate 3, like when I played through it initially, which was before even the first pass through for character pathing, it was okay. Like I was surprised how good it was for a game like that, and the fact they're still improving on that is a good sign in my eyes. The Gith now have proper Gith weapons, so there's spoilers, there's a part where you can fight some Gith. Those Gith are now sort of pushed out into their proper gear, so they're wearing proper Gith armor, which they were wearing, but they now have proper Gith weapons as well. The Flaming Fists now have a shield with their coat of arms, which, as you might imagine, is a fist with flames behind it. Improved navigation around the village windmill, and that's oddly specific, but okay. Added crossplay through Direct Connect with Mac version. So if you're playing on Mac, which I'm sure is a very small minority, but those who are playing on Mac now have proper crossplay when they connect directly across. Finally, what you likely care about the most is the Druid class is now added to the game. I'm going to go through all of this relatively in depth. I'm just going to read out pretty much exactly what they had in the actual the patch notes specifically. So they've added the Druid class with 2 unique subclasses, the Circle of the Moon and the Circle of the Land. Circle of the Moon. Transformation is no problem for most druids, but those who keep the way of the moon gain the ability to morph into powerful combative wild shapes like the polar bear. And Circle of the Land. Keepers of the Old Faith, these druids gain additional power based on the region and what type of geography they're connected to. I'm not sure if they're going to have all of the lands available for Circle of the Land, but generally the idea is you say, I'm a Circle of the Land druid from the coast, and that will give you a certain list of spells and a certain list of wild shapes that you can choose when you're a Circle of the Land. But in generally, Circle of the Moon really focuses on transformation. Circle of the Land focuses... They still do their transformations, but most of the things they do is spell-based. So they have more powerful spellcasting, whereas Circle of the Moon is really focused on wild shape and changing form over and over and over again. Speaking of wild shape, embodying nature's adaptability, druids can assume the form of a host of distinct and potent creatures using the power of their magic. Oftentimes, during Baldur's Gate 3, through your Baldur's Gate 3 journey, you'll be called upon by your party to destroy opponents. For such occasion, the druid enlarges, gaining the killing form of a direwolf, or in the case of Druid of the Circle of the Moon, a polar bear. Combat could also be affected if the druid would transform into a sinuous spider, entrapping enemies in their sticky webbing. In traversing Faerun, the party may rely on their druid to scout the surrounding countryside, or cityscape as a cat, from beneath as a badger, or from the scoring skies as a raven. Lastly, in truly desperate circumstances, a druid may decide to embrace the tadpole. Interesting. Embrace the tadpole implanted in their brain by the Mind Flayers. In doing so, the druid transforms into a mysterious, aberrant shape, and roots terrible and powerful consequences. So their kind of special tadpole ability, which you get as you're playing through, allows them to turn into, I think, a relatively powerful intellect devourer. So, wild shapes include a Deep Wrath, which is it's like a big buffalo type thing. It comes from the Underdark. You can turn into a direwolf, which is a massive wolf. A badger, it's actually technically a giant badger, so you're quite huge. Spider, again, it's a giant spider. Polar bear, raven, cat, or an aberrant intellect devourer form. Indeed, you can turn into an intellect devourer if you use your once per long rest tadpole ability. Now, as for the spells added for the druid, I'm going to go through all of these. They do have like explanations of what they do, so I'll go over them as well. You have Entangle, animated vines, weeds, and creeping roots to snare and restrain your foes in a specific area. Flameblade, you summon a scimitar of flame, shedding light around you and swinging it to scorch enemies. Moonbeam, classic spell here, and it's very, very good. Create a damaging pillar of radiant moonlight. It's worth noting that pillar is persistent and you can move it around. So as long as there's an enemy in it, they're going to take constant damage. Next we have Produce Flame. Light dark areas with this flickering flame in your palm, illuminate torches, and immolate patches of flammable liquid. Shillelagh. When more powerful spells fail the druid, this cantrip imbues a melee weapon like a club or a staff with glowing energy and makes it hit much harder. So essentially you have a stick. Usually most druids run with a staff, just classically. But Shillelagh will actually just power up the staff. I think it technically magical, but it also makes it do more damage, which is nice. We have Thorn Whip. This prickly vine lasso cuts your enemies and yanks them closer to you. Very useful. I think they showed in a little gameplay demo that you can also use this to rip people off ledges, which is quite good. We have a Bark Skin. The druid turns their skin or an ally's as hard as the bole of an oak tree. So essentially you just add 8 to your AC by that. Destroy Water. Remove damaging fog or hazardous puddles in your path. Interesting. I wonder how that's going to work on like larger forms of water. It probably doesn't as it stands. Like you couldn't take a chunk out of a river, for instance. Enhance ability. Give an ally or yourself Bear's Endurance. Bull's Strength, Cat's Grace, Eagle's Splendor, Fox's Cunning, or Owl's Wisdom. That just adds to each of the attributes, respectively. Flaming Spear, a ball of fire that sticks around. Druids can keep this blazing orb rolling into the path of their foes. You literally just create a massive spear of fire. It's in the name. It's a cool spell. Good Berry. These berries grant some healing and can be carried in the inventory or eaten right away. So this is an Good Berry is always interesting because on tabletop it's like a really cool spell because it kind of negates the need. You can role play like a proper survivalist D&D adventure and not have to actually worry about keeping food and stuff, because essentially what the Good Berry does is it heals a little bit of HP, but it's also like Lambus bread, which I think is what it's pretty much, the concept is taken directly off Lambus bread from Tolkien, which is you take like one Good Berry and you've got your entire day's worth of food covered. So it's kind of like, everyone loves it in pen and paper, but I see like really easy healing like a Good Berry could be very broken in a video game context. We'll see. Next we have Heat Metal. Superheating metal can have harmful or even deadly effects, especially if your opponent of yours is wearing that metal. Indeed, you can heat up their metal armor. Protection from Poison. This spell neutralizes toxins in the blood and also acts as a silver bullet against all forms of poison. Very useful. And Spike Growth. Druids can transform nearby terrain into a nest of barbs that slows and damages their foes. Okay, there's also some added reactivity for the Druid. So that was all the spells that they've added thus far. Added reactivity for the Druid. Additional path in multiple dialogues that reflect your Druidic training and history. As you would expect, new class, new dialogues. There is now big additions to the Druid's Grove. For those unaware, at the start, if you haven't played it yet, there is a start of the game where you run into like a grove full of Druids. And there's some conflict going on there. So if you are playing a Druid, when Druid players gain additional options and insights into the activities and challenges there, simply because you kind of understand the spells they're doing, you understand why they're doing what they're doing, all that kind of thing. You gain powerful new magic items depending on what your actions become. Gain powerful new magic items, and depending on your actions, become the Faith Warden. That's very interesting. Again, that's kind of story-oriented, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. And new reactivity and options for talking to animals while in wild shape form. So they actually pointed this out. If you take the form of an animal, you can talk to other animals, so you don't actually need the speak with animals skill. Having said that, if you are an animal and you want to speak to another NPC, you have to transform back. Although I think they did say you can speak to your companions while you're in animal form, so you don't have to go out of wild shape just to speak to your companions. However, if you want to speak to other NPCs, you have to actually be, a person that can talk. And finally, rebuilt and refined combat encounters. Druid NPCs are now true Druids, following the same rule set as a player character. All potential combats within the Druid Grove have been rebuilt and reflected the new abilities and spells these NPCs can use. So effectively, all the Druid NPCs, quote unquote, in the Druid Grove are now like class leveled into this new Druid class I've created. So previously, if you attacked them, they didn't have all these cool spells. These spells are added into the game and put across all the NPCs that are Druids as well as the player character. But that's about it. It's a very big patch, and there's a lot of notes I went through there, but it's looking to be good. I haven't got a chance to play it yet. It's finishing. I finished downloading like 10 minutes ago. I've got a couple of other videos I've got to make, and I'm probably not going to get time to play it until tomorrow. So either tomorrow or Sunday is likely going to be my video on the actual Druid. I'll do a full playthrough and speed run my way through to max level. Should be good. I'll let you know, I suppose. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. So if you like the video, please leave a like. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Also, in the description will be a link to the full patch notes. So if you want to actually read through the patch yourself, feel free. I did the big bulk of it here, but if you're interested in like the fixes and the glitch fixes and balancing issues and all that kind of stuff, you can go read it. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.